guys, welcome back. This is the Nala Ray Show, and I am your host, Nala Ray. Today we have a super exciting co-host. He goes by RC. He is an extremely controversial yet truthful person on the internet that I've been following now for almost a year, and I absolutely love his content, and I know you will too. So today's content or context is really going to be about some controversial topics that you guys might get offended by, and by no means are we trying to step on your toes, but if it hurts, take a step back and see why. So welcome, RC. Thank you for joining.
Hey, thank you for the invite. I appreciate you saying that it's controversial yet truthful. You know, Jesus was controversial in his day, and that's who we try to mimic as close as we can. So it's going to be countercultural, whatever culture's pushing. If you continue to try and live as close to Jesus's ministry as you can, you're always going to be counter the worldly culture.
I love that. Absolutely. I mean, Jesus even flipped tables, because they were doing something wrong. And I feel like I want to be a modern day table flipper. I say that a lot where a lot of people might look at me and be like, man, you're just a firecracker. And I am, but I am that for Jesus, and I will continue to be so. Some people might call us whistleblowers or just crazy people, but I really do think that the truth has been so farly stretched that our version of it is the truth, and that people just really need to receive it on a different side and stop getting their emotions in such a tangle and such a bind. So today's topic, one of the main topics is the red pill movement. And you talk a lot about this on your page, which I think is so interesting, because the red pill movement started as where, like in the Matrix, where he was handing the blue pill versus the red pill. And the red pill just equals like what reality actually is. So what are your thoughts on the red pill movement? It really started booming, like we said earlier, during like 2015 to 2020. So why is it so controversial to be red pill, and why is it affecting men so much?
So I'll start with the positive that I think about the red pill. And I think that they describe a lot of the problems correctly. I think that the reason so many men are attracted to it is because they feel disaffected, they feel hurt, perhaps from dating. A lot of it's probably from dating, and they kind of share in this collective pain. And the red pill, as I said, to start positive, I do think that it accurately describes the problems that a lot of these guys feel. Where I see the issue with the red pill is in a lot of their anecdotes and what they prescribe to these hurts and these pains. Because ultimately, I do believe that just like our forefathers, we should look to Christ and raise Christian families. That's the foundation. Right. The foundation shouldn't be you're a high value man, the more women you have sex with. You're a high value man, the more money that you have. Because that's what red pill pushes. And, right. If that's turning money and sex into an idol, and they will even justify adultery and cheating on a girlfriend, cheating on a wife. If you have enough money, if you're considered high value enough, then you can commit this cardinal sin of cheating on the person you're supposed to be loyal to the rest of your life.
Why do you think the red pill movement at its most toxicity is degrading women?
Why do I think that the red pill degrades women? Because they profit from it. You're an interesting person to ask this to, because one of my biggest criticisms with the red pill podcasts, like these debate shows, such as the Whatever podcast and the Fresh and Fit podcast, they could label themselves as they do to push back against feminism and say that we're trying to end simp culture. But ultimately, what I started noticing is they would bring a lot of porn star women on the show. They would put thumbnails of their chest, which is totally their choice. They could put any picture as the thumbnail, and they choose to put a picture of their chest, right? And it's like three girls usually lined up. And then on top of it, they will put in the bio of a lot of their videos, if not all of them, their social media accounts that you can find, which when you go to the social media account, the OF or whatever their porn site that they're, associating to their account by clicking on their social media account. So in essence, they really became OnlyFans ad agencies. So I think that they do it to profit. They see the pain that a lot of men experience. They call out the right things, a lot of the right things, but then I look, I'm not gonna, you probably have a lot more insight into what I'm about to say, because I've never gone on the record stating this as fact, but I've heard from a lot of people that are in the space, not the OF space, but like in the podcasting space, that have been on the Whatever podcast telling me, yes, there are OF managers that work with the host so that the OF manager can bring his girls onto the show so the girls can platform themselves. They masquerade the whole thing as a debate, but in essence, it's just so the OF girls can get more subscribers to her porn. Does that
Right.
resonate as true at all?
I had no idea that that was a thing until you even said it, because my OF manager at the time, the first time I went on, was the one who got me in touch with the Whatever podcast. And that's when I blew up, but I didn't even think about it like that. He just got me podcasts. And so I went wherever he told me to go. And again, he was my pimp, my online pimp. And he wanted me to go viral so that at the end of the day, he makes more money off of me, because that means I get more subscribers. No matter how stupid I looked or whatever kind of crap I spewed on the podcast, they benefited from it. Both sides, like the Whatever podcast hosts and my OF manager. So that is actually insane that you're saying this, because again, I never thought about that. But it makes perfect sense. And with the red pill movement, it tells men, become powerful so that you can win. But the biblical masculinity says serve, lead, and love sacrificially. So there's just such a divide there, because men in the red pill movement, they don't serve. They are to be served. You know what I'm saying? And that's how they act, that women should just serve them no matter if they're married or not, but they should do anything for them. They should submit to them. But then they don't lead at all. All they do is go on the internet talking about how they're a high value male. And then have a following? You might have a nice car, but how is that leading our society in any bit of a good way? And then loving? There is no love in your actions. There's no love in the way you speak. The way you speak to women, from what I have seen from people like Andrew Tate and Andrew Wilson. I don't know why it's the Andrews of the world, but we need to change that name. But it seems to be just so degrading. No matter who you are, how much money you made, they don't care. They will absolutely shred you to pieces in front of an audience and think it's funny to clip up later.
Right. And as we spoke about earlier, because you're 100% right. First of all, in order to get submission from a godly woman, you have to be a godly man. And I do believe that there is a patriarchal hierarchy. This doesn't mean, because a lot of people in culture and in our world, in our society, have perverted what that really means and said that, it means that you believe men are better than women. No, it's just that there is a structure. Just like you see with pretty much every species on the planet, there's a biological role. It's not misogynistic that a lioness protects her young and nurtures the young. It's not misogynistic that a bird has to build the nest and then lay the eggs and then stay on the eggs until they hatch and then nurture the young. It's not misogynistic. That's just the biological role. And that doesn't stop at humans. So I do believe that there is a hierarchy, but in order to deserve and be blessed with a godly wife, you do have to surrender to Christ. And what these guys want to do is they want to skip that step and say, no, I'm not going to worship Christ. I'm going to worship money. I'm going to worship sex. I'm going to worship the things that I'm turning into an idol. I'm not going to worship your Christ. Forget that. I'm going to worship what is pleasurable to me. But and I wanted to also mention, and we could just leave it at this and we don't have to talk more about it, but I wanted to go onto the Whatever podcast to debate Brian. I think that's the host's name. Yes. And of course, if, I wasn't going to just do that and leave, I would have also stood for biblical values, similar to how Charlie Kirk did when he went on the show. And I would have contended with the women on the show as well. But, I wanted to turn my chair to the brothel owner. which I view Brian, he's a brothel owner. And yes, the prostitutes in the brothel are doing wrong. Of course, Jesus gave a very clear call to action to the prostitute and said, go forward and sin no more. But I
Right.
was going to swivel my chair to Brian and say, hey, but you're the brothel owner though. You know, you're putting these women on the show, and I've seen a lot of tweets of, I think even you also tweeted this or said it at one point, that the amount of money you made after being on the whatever podcast and the amount of subscribers you got, you got a lot of eyes for being on that show, and it gave you an incentive to
Right.
keep going. That's why I think the whole thing is masqueraded as a debate. Maybe he started it with good intentions to give him the benefit of the doubt, but what it
Right.
has turned into, and especially with the Fresh and Fit, both of them, they're brothel owners. They're pimps. They're online pimps, and they're masquerading it that, yeah, we're exposing their worldview. So I wanted to debate Brian, and I ended up debating Andrew Wilson. It was this weird thing that happened. Brian he said, if you want to come on the show, you have to pay me $10,000. And I said, dude, you literally ask women that are porn stars to go on your show for free. And he said, yeah, but you have to pay me $10,000 to get on the show, then pay for your ticket as well to California, which is, I think, where the show is, and pay
Right.
for your hotel, pay all of that, plus the $10,000 to be on the show. I'm like, dude, I'm not paying you $10,000 to be on the show. I'll be happy to pay my plane ticket and the hotel. I'm not going to ask you to pay that for me, but you're bringing all these women on for free. And he advertises that, like, please come on to the show, DM the show so you can get on the show. And you're going to charge me $10,000. Like, I had at the time maybe 300,000 followers. It's not like I'm a dude with 1,000 followers begging to be on the show
Right.
for clout. I wanted to
Right.
go on. I said, I only want to be on for one episode. But then he kind of latched Andrew Wilson on me. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot to that. I went into my discussion with Andrew Wilson thinking it was going to be a discussion similar to the one you and I are having, because I thought we're on the same side. I didn't go into it expecting some kind of heated
You'd think.
debate. That's what I thought, honestly.
That is really sad. Yeah, I've been on the Whatever podcast 3 times. 2 of those times in the beginning were when I was on OnlyFans, and the third most recent was when I got saved. And it was a 9-hour podcast where we didn't get up. They gave us energy drinks and some popcorn, thinking that was just going to hold us over for 9 hours. And then just recently, Brian asked me to be a co-host on for long term with the Whatever podcast. And I didn't even have to pray about it. I was like, absolutely not. Absolutely not. It's disgusting how you disguise this podcast, right? You call it some dating thing, whatever, but all you do is bring scantily clad women who are doing porn or some kind of OF content onto your show, and then ridicule them, make them cry, make them get up and leave. That's what you do. And you get paid for it. On top of that, I think that's horrific. And then adding someone like Andrew Wilson on, who has done so much damage in the Christian community under the name of God, right? Like, I'm a Christian, I'm an Orthodox, blah, blah, blah. And then that you think that gives you the right to speak to women that way. And I'm like, wow, like, you were just adding to this massive problem that's already reoccurring in society. And then again, claiming that you're some kind of Christian and that your words come from God. Like, it's disgusting behavior. And I'm really glad that someone like you speaks up and speaks out about this as a man, as someone who does follow biblical principles, excuse me. And I just think that this red pill movement, whoever out there is following this, is just so toxic, and it's not masculine behavior. It's just doing way more damage than good. So do you think the red pill community is actually helping men or quietly destroying them? And I think we both know the answer to that, but please elaborate.
Yeah, I think it's quietly destroying them, and oftentimes not so quiet about it. I mean, they're explicit with what they want men to do. But I wanted to also piggyback on what you said there to kind of conclude this subject on it. The way that you and I kind of got in touch, I saw this clip that came across my feed a year and a half ago or something, and it was you with your husband. I think you guys were married at that point.
Yeah,
on
we
the
were.
whatever podcast. So it was after you were saved. And the clip was just Andrew saying to your husband, attacking both of you, but attacking your husband with you as the vehicle, saying that, why did you marry a prostitute? And you had been saved for quite a few months by
6
that point,
months.
6 months
Yeah.
by that point, right? So I made a video and I told Andrew, I'm gonna talk about in a very loud way that no one's ever talked about before. And his wife is a public figure as well. So it's not like she's some
Mm-hmm.
private person. And I said, Andrew, I'm not going to do this as an attack, but your wife has a past as well. We all have a past, to be clear. But your wife has a very less than favorable past.
Mm.
And, she has children from out of wedlock. It's not that she was just married and had kids and got divorced and got remarried and had another kid. She has a kid or multiple kids from out of wedlock. And look, I'm not going to hold it against her, but I'm just saying, if you're going to attack a husband because of his wife's past, we're all supposed to, as a Christian, give a new believer, at the minimum, the benefit of the doubt. And if you're going to
Right.
call her a current prostitute and attack the husband, then why are you not fair game? Why is your wife's past not fair game? And he told me, you do that, I'm never going to debate you again, because we had a debate scheduled. It was supposed to be a theological debate, me as a Protestant, him as an Orthodox. And that was scheduled. And I made my video, and I wasn't attacking his wife. I didn't say that you should look down on his wife. I said the opposite. I said, actually, just like we should give Nala the benefit of the doubt, we should give your wife the benefit of the doubt. But the thing is, because what happened with him and his wife was, I don't know, over 15 years ago, you have recency bias because your conversion was a lot more recent. So everyone could zoom in. But imagine at that time when his wife was doing what she was doing, and everyone could have hounded on her. But I don't call for that. I don't want anyone to attack his wife or attack
Right.
Andrew because of what his wife did, or attack Andrew for things that he's done. I'm saying that
Right.
as Christians, we should give the benefit of the doubt. That was the whole point of my video. And like a big bully that says rules for me, not rules for you, or sorry, rules for you, not rules for me, I'm never going to debate you again. I'm going to cancel this. And he's talked shit about me to who knows how many different podcasts that he's been to now. And so it is what it is. There's a lot of beef there, more so one-sided with him and his community that's come after me. But I'll end it there. I don't want to talk more about him. It's just unfortunate the way things played out. And,
Right.
I think that ultimately as Christians, we should give people the benefit of the doubt. And I want to give credit to someone, because I wasn't giving you the benefit of the doubt at first. I'll be clear. My friend Victor Nieves, he's a fantastic conservative Christian content creator. And I was speaking to him, privately. And I said, I honestly don't know what to make of this conversion. She's getting invited onto Michael Knowles. She's going to here and there. I'm like, I don't know. And he's like, dude, really? And you don't know who Victor is, right? No. Okay. So this is not like he has a bias for you. It's not like you guys are friends or anything. And he said, listen, man, sanctification is a lifelong process. And I was a relatively new Christian at that point. And I said, you know what? And I thought about it for a few days. I prayed over it. I didn't just accept him accept what he said blindly. And I said, all right, Victor, you convicted me with that. I prayed over it, thought over it. And it's true. Sanctification is a lifelong process, and any sin is evil. Right. So anyway, I was kind of long-winded there. I'm curious what you think of that.
No, I'm grateful for your perspective, and genuinely thank you for just doing what the Bible tells us to do, is just go to the Father. You look at the fruit that you're seeing and you take it to God. But the issue is, so many people right after I got converted, and I never asked to be on one podcast. Fox News reached out to me, so many news sources, just wanting to hear what had happened and get the good take on me converting. And I just simply said yes. I was like, okay, sure. But again, I'm not sitting there in my prayer time being like, God, please put me in front of cameras. Please put me in front of these big podcasters. I was rocked when Michael Knowles and Lecrae and Isabel Brown and Turning Point USA wanted to talk to me. And I was so honored. I felt like God was opening these awesome doors to this good Christian community, right? For me to be in and just tell my testimony. It's not like I'm trying to give theological advice here. I'm just saying what God did in my life and how radical it was. And the biggest thing for me is that I really wanted people to see that God could take anybody out of anywhere at any time. I mean, he took me out of prime days in OnlyFans to become a Christian and start speaking out about the evil in the world that I see and I can relate to on a very different level than most people can because of the industry and my experience there. But I think God takes very specific people out of certain places. And we're seeing that with people like Russell Brand coming out of the movie industry, some NFL players out of the sports industry, me out of the porn industry. It's like very specific people out of these massive industries to come together and reach those people where they are. Stay where you're planted is a very typical thing sometimes, I think. And we always want to move around. And I'm not scared to stay where I'm at because I'm not afraid of the industry. I'm not afraid of what the devil thinks he can do over my life. He has no power. And so it was beautiful to be able to share my testimony and then watch girls from OnlyFans reach out to me on every social media platform, just asking me, what do I do, Nala? I'm stuck. I don't want to be here. And then I could actually give good, genuine advice on how they can make money without showing their bodies online and not being pimped out by men. And so it was a beautiful experience. Whatever podcast was my mistake. I actually didn't pray over that podcast or whether I should go on. I felt like it was a renewal. I thought in my mind, oh, hey, I can go renew what I've said in the past here on this podcast because I've said some crazy things and things that were so misleading and so hurtful to so many people. And I was just like, yes, let me get on. Let me speak my truth. Let me share what God did in my life. But it did not go the way that I thought. And that was my fault. I should have asked Holy Spirit. I should have prayed over it and saw that that might not have been the best decision in that time because I was such a new Christian and I did not expect to be hammered for 9 hours with 2 red pill men being called names like a whore, a prostitute, saying that I had people's genitalia in my mouth. Like it was horrific. I went home feeling so destroyed and not even by Brian. I expected that from Brian because he's an unbeliever, but Andrew and his wife made a special appearance just to come on and nail me to a freaking cross. And I was appalled that Christian community exists, right, in our day in today's society. So it was a rough experience. And again, that just taught me, you know what, I need to pray over these things. And that's just, that comes with wisdom and over time. But sanctification is a very real process. To this day, I have had to wrestle with the Holy Spirit about certain things in my life.
I have a question for you about that.
Yeah.
Actually. All right. So this is not an attack, but as you've seen, I've also, a lot of my videos are
about modesty.
But it's a lot of those videos have Christian or self-proclaimed Christian women that are the ones that I'm responding to, right? And they're putting videos and stuff out there. But I do want to ask you, and I'm curious what you think. But the kitchen video that a lot of people have spoke about with what you did, and it did seem pretty kind of explicit, some of the stuff you're doing, just to be clear.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw it and I'm thinking, yeah, this doesn't look good. But I don't know. Maybe you've already spoke on this. I honestly haven't seen it.
I actually haven't yet. I haven't.
Okay. So have you heard the criticisms? Have you read some of those criticisms?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Do you think that you were being kind of suggestive though, to be like transparent though?
Oh yeah, let me be super raw and honest. At the time of making the video, I'm thinking when you make weird faces or do weird things on the internet, it's a hook. I am really good at social media. And so at the time of making the video, that was my intent. I was like, let me just make some weird faces here, do some weird gestures, let's throw it out there. When I saw all the backlash, I did decide to take the video down because, again, I'm not here to make anybody stumble. I don't want anybody to think like, oh, this is just about her now, because my platforms are no longer about me. I have dedicated them to God. And so I can absolutely see where that was wrong. But again, that goes into the sanctification process. And sometimes you learn the hard way not to do stupid things. And so that was definitely my fault. And again, I haven't spoken about it. I just decided to take it down because my haters already had so much ammo. They were just taking any video I posted, any quote I said, any receipt I brought up, and just literally putting it in a chamber and shooting me with it. So I decided just to take it down, and I felt so belittled in during that time of my life, you got to understand, I would wake up every single morning with hundreds of mentions, and I'd go look, and there's emails, and it's just on every social media platform, YouTube channels that are making so many videos about me, just degrading me and calling me names and saying I'm grifting, saying I'm being fake. And so I've made mistakes. I have accidentally worn a dress with a little bit of cleavage. I have worn kind of inappropriate pants to the gym during these 2 years. I have made so many mistakes. But it's what I think of it is just, I came from 10 years of being promiscuous. This is a hard road to get off of. You know, I've dug holes for the last 10 years. It's hard to get yourself out of that hole sometimes. And again, that's through sanctification, a lot of prayer and staying in your word. But I've made mistakes through this time, and I'm just going to have to learn from them. You know, just like that mistake I made, I'm like, okay, we're never doing this again. You know, you just got to learn from it and understand that the public is just not ready for a lot of things. And obviously, some of the facial expressions did correlate to some of the faces I made during the OnlyFans time. And I was like, oh, I can totally see where this looks really bad. And at the time I was thinking, oh, you know, I'm a big anime fan. Anime people make so many weird faces, sounds, and stuff. And I'm really into that culture. So for me, it meant something different, but it came off as something else. So again, that's why I just took it down. But I appreciate you just asking the question. I am so okay to admit that I was wrong. Oh man, I am the first to admit that I've been so wrong in so many things. But conviction from the Holy Spirit, if you're really in your word, He is so gentle and loving on how he convicts you versus the internet, which will tear you to shreds, like skin you alive in so many ways. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to listen to the world, but I see their point. So it's just taking it with a grain of salt at the end
Understood.
of the day.
Yeah. You know,
Yeah.
I've had people send clips of me from debates that I've been in, or send me videos that I've made a while ago, or sometimes kind of recent. And I'm thinking,
Mm-hmm.
my intentions for this video were to call out sin. And in the process, I came across as a massive a-hole, and I couldn't have come
Yeah.
across more hateful, you know? So,
Mm.
but taking that with a grain of salt, because the world's going to say everything that we're saying countercultural is
Mm-hmm.
hateful, bigoted, misogynistic, whatever, right? So, you know, got to be careful with who you're hearing that criticism from. But I could
Right.
feel it in my spirit when I would see myself in the way that I'm a lot of times reacting to someone's hate toward me, or the way that I'm calling out an unjust behavior. I became the very thing that I'm trying to call out, you know? So,
Ooh.
and I wanted to
I
also
mean, like
respond
what?
to,
Yeah, go ahead.
there was, you mentioned the Christian community. Because I'm also kind of a relatively new Christian still.
Okay.
I read the Gospels for the first time at 26. I'm 29 now. So, you know, been 3 years of this. I've done a lot of research in that time span, but something that I learned, and no shade to Catholics, Orthodox. There's a lot of amazing people that are Catholic and Orthodox, but as Protestants, there already is another added barrier that we have with them. So a lot of that criticism within the Christian community oftentimes comes from the Catholics and Orthodox, because their tradition, their belief is that you need someone to have an authoritative interpretation over scripture. So the attacks are not just from the world. A lot of the times as Protestants, the attacks will come from people that you thought were on your side, and you think we're all
Wow.
following Christ. So I'm just saying, maybe you've already noticed that, but you know, it's unfortunate, but there's a lot
Right.
of great Orthodox people and Catholic people that I've met and discussed with,
There
and we
are.
just have some theological differences. But it's just in the online space, it can get really hated or hateful. It can get
Right.
really, nasty, and it's
Yeah.
less than ideal.
I agree with that. You know, even when I walked away from that last whatever podcast, I even thought in my mind there was doubt. There was doubt because I thought, are they right? Were they right to call me these names? Because that And this is exactly what Satan does when he loves to just lie to you. He loves to twist your perception of who you really are and cause a lack of identity there. And so if I didn't have strong people in my life to turn to during that point, I might have failed miserably at my walk with God, because they really did push me past a point that I have never been at. So like with all the name calling and even using scripture to kind of back up some of his ideas was so wrong. And that's exactly what Satan does, right? He uses scripture because he knows it against us sometimes. But that's why we have to be even more in our word to be able to hide that in our hearts and use it like the shield of faith. Our shield of faith is like everything that we know about God and believe in Christ. And so at that time, my shield of faith was about like this big. It was tiny, right? And so, I think it was really evil, and I would love to cancel out those kinds of podcasts because they're doing absolutely no good in the world, only harm. But I wanted to kind of move on to the feminist movement. And we kind of spoke a little bit earlier about how, okay, so there's a big difference. There's like red pill movement with men, but then there's feminism with women. But the thing that I really noticed is that they hold the same kinds of values. So red pill men are all about power and money and fitness versus strength. And then no victim mindset, right? You're not a victim, you're powerful. And then the feminist movement is all about power over men, getting your bag, being independent, not needing a husband in this society. So they're two sides of the coin, but they're the exact same message to either sex. So I really want to hear your perspective on feminism and how it's damaging our society.
Yeah, I agree with that perspective that it seems that it's a lot of two sides of the same coin. There's a lot of, if you have kind of a Venn diagram, there's a lot of parallels. And two of the biggest parallels that I've seen is both sides often reject marriage. Like they speak poorly upon marriage. Mm-hmm. And both sides are very, they like this idea of sexual liberation. But yes, I mean, God created for men and women to be married, and for a husband to give that kind of attention, sexual attention to his wife in the confines of a marriage, and for a woman to want to feel beautiful and to be told she's beautiful and to feel that kind of sexual attention from one man, her husband. What culture has done is perverted it to where a lot of these feminist women want as much attention as possible from as many men as possible. And then the other side of it, these guys, instead of giving that attention to one woman, it's been perverted to a point and corrupted to a point where he's trying to give his attention to as many women as possible. Feminism really is just anti-traditionality. And by traditionality, I mean biblical values. So it's a push against that, it's a rebellion against it. And then you have these guys that they're trying to fight what they believe are for the right things. And now there's an added element to this whole red pill community, which is this self-worship. Look how good looking I am with clavicular and all that. That's like a newer added element. And I forgot the name of a study. I don't have it here next to me, but if people look it up, there was a study done many years ago of I think it was over rats or it was mice or something. And what they found is the male mice or the male rats started to separate from the females and become hyperfixated on themselves. People could look up the study and there's a parallel as you see with clavicular, and it's just like this self-admiration and I need to be perfect. And I mean, pride comes before the fall, and that guy couldn't be more prideful. And no shade to him. I'm just saying that from a biblical lens, that's the literal opposite of what you want to do. You want to be admiring Christ. But yeah, that's kind of this newer element, is like men just doing what women have always done, is caring about their beauty. And I just think, personally, I think that's a little gay. Like I mean, I comb my hair and I shave my face and I want to be groomed.
Okay, that's just good hygiene though. Okay, like that's not taking it too far. I think we all need to be presentable at times for important things. But when you're taking it too far, looking so much into the mirror or taking too many selfies or posting so much about yourself, then that is pride, I believe. And even Christians, you know what the funny thing Christians do is they'll use false humility. Like, let's say you go up to the worship singer on Sunday and you're like, wow, you sang so beautifully. She's like, no, it wasn't me. It was Jesus. I'm like, if that was the case, it would have been much better, because if Jesus was actually singing, it would be, wow, out of this world. But we love to use this false sense of humility because Christians think it's pride and arrogance to, not accept a compliment, right? Or turn it over to, oh, it's all God, it's all God. And I've even been wrong about this too. When someone's like, oh my gosh, I love your story. I'm like, oh, it's God, it is my story, but God worked through me during that situation. But I had to make the choice. I was strong enough to say, you know what? I don't want this anymore. I do want Christ. I do want a different path for my life. And so this false humility, Christians, I think, are failing so hard in this area of a lack of true identity, knowing that God says that you are reborn. You're a new creation in Christ. The old has passed away and the new has come, correct? And so we love to be like, we love to focus on like a poverty mindset instead of saying, oh, you know what? No, we were born into a royal priesthood. We are all sons and daughters of the Most High King, a king that lives in a mansion, not even in this realm. So we love to really dictate like our false sense of pride, I guess, as Christians. But again, we're born into a royal bloodline. We are sons and daughters. We have the same power that lived in Jesus, lives in us as Christians, right? So why does that make us less, right? In fact, it puts us on like almost the same level. I've even heard it spoken that Jesus is like our brother, right? Even though Jesus is God, which a lot of people say, I love to get the Trinity wrong, but I don't. I have a very clear understanding of what the Trinity is. But something I do want to talk about is like, women, and why are women thinking now that, they don't need a husband? I think I know kind of the answer, but I'd like to hear your perspective on why women in society now don't think they need husbands.
Well, I mean, the Bible's pretty clear about that too, that the women are going to want to rebel. And the Bible thousands of years ago warned against, it's better to be like living in the desert alone than in a house with a quarrelsome wife. So this is not necessarily anything new of wanting to rebel against men, but they've been lied to. I mean, to put it simply, and women more so than men, but men as well are very like you get to their heart with words. You get to a woman's heart with words. That's why Taylor Swift is so influential, and that's why music and reading. That's why a lot of these smut books and it's you really get to a woman's heart with words, and with these words from culture has been telling them, be your own girl boss. Why submit to a man? And it's ironic because of course they still many of them that feel this girl boss mentality, which is, by the way, just you're the average adult man. Congratulations, you're doing your own laundry, cooking your own food. You have a job. You've achieved average male status. Yeah, you're just being an adult. Congrats. But with that being said, though, they still want the man to fit into a traditional role. I made a video. It was, I don't know if you know her. Her name's Haley Bailey, I think. And she has like over 9 million followers. And, I get a lot of videos that I react to from my feed. Some people send me videos to react to, and it was Thanksgiving.
This was like the Thanksgiving. Yes.
Yeah. So what's funny with that, a lot of people think that I took a pause of making videos because of that. And it's like, that couldn't be further from the truth. I've had people, say much nastier things to me, and it had many more views than that video did. So I haven't responded to a lot of these claims that, oh, I think you stopped making videos for that. No, I didn't. And I'm going to come back eventually. This is me coming back too. If I wanted to go away, I just would never do any podcast or anything again. But the reason I bring that video up, thank you. The reason I bring that video up to respond to what you're saying with this marriage thing is like in her video, and I didn't even realize who was making it. It's just another feminist that I see that I'm going to respond to. She was saying, look at what women have to do on Thanksgiving and all the kitchen work and all that. And then she crapped on men. So look what the men have to do, just sitting on the couch doing nothing. And around that time of Thanksgiving, there was a lot of that theme going around of all these different feminists making similar type of videos, right? Saying that men are basically worthless and they're good for nothing. And in my response to that, I'm like, well, who probably paid for the house of the guy? Who paid for all the Thanksgiving meal? The guy. Who paid for the bills and for all your kitchenware? The guy. Who works to have to do that? The guy. And I'm like, but if you didn't have a husband, guess what? You would still be having to cook it all and set the table and also work. So it's like you would have to be doing it anyway. At least it's paid for you. At least. And in her response, she's like, oh no, it's not paid for me. Look how rich I am. I'm like, that wasn't even the point of the video. I'm saying to the girl bosses that you're making the video for, that are working or maybe not even working, or college students, they are the ones I'm really speaking to, not necessarily you. Again, I didn't even know who she was. And so people she misconstrued the video. And of course, all her like feminist followers are like, oh yeah, idiot, she could pay for her own stuff. I'm like, that's not the point. The point is, as a feminist girl boss, like at least you could submit and get married to a man and everything will be paid for, or at least 50% cheaper, you know, if you have to pay a little bit, whatever it is, at least you won't have to be feeling the full financial brunt of it. So what if you have to cook? Okay, at least it's paid, you know. That was the only point of that video, and is to kind of stand up for the guys like, hey, he does play a part. You're just not seeing the part because he's at home because it's the holidays, you know?
Right. So, well, and another little point in there is that like even on Thanksgiving Day, I don't even let my husband in the kitchen because I love to cook. I have a schedule going, like, you know what I'm saying? And I feel like a lot of women are like that. They really want to cook with their girls, their friends, their family, and it's all women. But I think the biggest part that feminists are missing is that women who are married, it's an honor. It's truly an honor. When I get to cook for my husband and I hand him his plate, he's just like the happiest man alive. And I think that is so sweet. It actually gives me joy to just cook a meal for my man. Like make sure he's getting good ingredients, make sure it's healthy, make sure it's going to help him watch his weight or be healthier for the gym, be stronger. That is an honor. And this is the key part that I think these feminist women don't understand. It's that you think you're doing it for you, but I'm actually doing it for him, which is another part of serving that feminists and a lot of red pill men don't understand. You guys don't want to submit. You don't want to serve others. But even in the Bible, I think it's in Matthew, is that Jesus literally says, I have not come to be served, but to serve. And so, and in Ephesians, it says, my favorite verse, I think it's chapter 4. I could be so wrong, but it just says the first two words are imitate God. And if Jesus is God, we are meant to imitate Jesus, God. And if he says, I've come to serve and not to be served, that is a mission for us, right? But in order to humble your mindset a little bit, unlike a lot of feminist women do, is that we got to get into this spirit of gratitude for the fact that our men do work. They work very hard. They push and push and push all week, you know, just to provide and make sure the lights stay on for us. And it's so sweet. Like it's so genuinely sweet. And yeah, there's times I don't want to cook because I'm tired, right? Because I work full time too. But at the end of the day, because my husband doesn't really know how to cook anything other than eggs. So what am I going to make him do? Make him cook himself eggs every single day? Like, and that's not a bad thing, but it's an honor. I feel so good inside when I get to put a smile on that man's face because I'm handing him a plate of food. And like feminists over here are being like, oh my God, you're weak. You know, you've lost your power. I'm like, no, in fact, I have so much more power than you because I can literally please my man on so much of a different level than you could ever think about. You know, it's just not about us. It's just really not. I saw this video yesterday and it really made me mad. It was this feminist woman speaking so boldly about how she thinks conservative women just need to shut up, get off social media and go make a sandwich because that's all we're good for, right? And I commented and I was like, you know what the difference is between a conservative woman and a liberal woman? The conservative woman can multitask. We can cook, clean, have babies, be married, be a biblical woman, and post on social media. But liberal women only know how to get on the internet and complain. That's it. That's the difference. I'm like, so I feel such a hate from other women that like we're conservative and that and I kind of honestly hate the phrase trad wife. Some people were calling me that. And I hate it. I think it's just being a good wife. It's a Proverbs 31 woman, you know, and it's an honor to be able to serve your husband, keep your household clean. Like, does anybody want to live in a pigsty? Like, I don't understand. Like, so you're mad at me for cooking and cleaning and being a good wife? And now I have a disregarded title on me for that? So
I want
that's
to
just what
piggyback
I
off that
think.
a little bit, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
And I think I'm speaking for a lot of I know I'm speaking for a lot of Christian guys when I say this, because I've said this before and they're like, bro, I feel the exact same way. In a way, I can respect the feminist liberal women that don't shy about being a feminist or a liberal or
Mm.
even hateful toward men. In a way, I respect it more than a covert feminist Christian woman that really is a danger. And
Mm.
an enemy that you can see is a lot less dangerous than an enemy pretending to be an ally. And that's
It's
scary.
true.
That's really scary. And it's difficult dating for a lot of Christian guys, including myself, because, and I've gotten a lot of pushback for doing this, but I have made a few videos of my Hinge, and I showed women that were on Hinge. I blocked out their faces, and so no one knew who they were, but they put
Mhm.
Catholic or the Orthodox or some kind of Christian, and then it's just like 4 bikini pictures. And it's like, wait,
Oh
hold on a
gosh.
second. Like, so I made some videos with that, and then I AI'd a picture of a Sorry Dad t-shirt on
I
them.
know.
And
I love
yeah,
that.
yeah. So
That's
some people
actually
got a
my
kick out
favorite
of it.
content that you do. Or like the woman that tweeted, like, I don't have to post half naked photos of myself on the internet to get attention. And then lo and behold, there was half naked photos of that woman all over her Instagram page.
Yeah. Well, she's a public figure. I can say it. Her name's Isabella DeLuca. She's not like
I
me for
was
years. She's
wrecked.
had me blocked for years. But yeah, the thing is that I'm just kind of like, I can see through it because I've been doing this for
Mhm.
some time now, and I came into this not expecting that so many people on my side were like covert feminists, were covert liberals, covert whatever,
Mm.
like kind of subverting the movement. I went into this thinking the
Right.
right wing are the good guys, the conservatives, they're the good guys, the liberals, those are the bad guys. But I've only been sued by one side, and it's my side. I've never had a leftist sue me. I've had big time conservatives send me cease and desist orders and lawsuits. So it's just
Oh
interesting.
my
But to kind of
gosh.
get back to the point, a lot of Christian men are almost giving up, sometimes just straight up giving up on dating, because they're like, well, the last saving grace
Mm.
were women in the church. But then I go to the church and they're just as feminist as the worldly women.
Mm.
So it's a struggle.
It is a real struggle. And I've spoken about this on my podcast before about the girls who post Bible verses and like in their bio and yet post bikini photos, right? There's nothing wrong with wearing a bikini, but why do you have to post about it? Why do you
Yeah.
have to get more
Right. So
attention
think about
off
that.
of your skin?
What kind of attention are they looking for when they post that picture online? If they posted a picture with their family at church, what kind of attention are they looking for? If a man posts a picture with a
Mm.
new Lamborghini, what kind of attention is he looking for? If a man posts a picture with his family eating dinner, what kind of attention is he looking for? And lastly, if a woman posts like a half naked picture of herself, just ask like logically, what kind of attention? Because there's different kinds of attention, right? You
Right.
could have just graduated and you want people to give you that kind of
Mm-hmm.
attention. So just ask yourself, like, what kind of attention is she looking
Right.
for? And that's what I target. And I'm like, you see, there's an issue with that, especially as a Christian.
Right. I have a really big issue with that too. Like I've been actually pretty appalled with what I've seen online. Um, my stance on it is, just pray. I saw this girl on TikTok absolutely bashing this girl who looked like a very new believer, right? So she was posting, talking about God, but posting her gym videos and kind of scantily clad, like on her body, right? It was like pretty, it was pretty sketchy, bro. But I saw that. And then this girl went on just to like rip her apart. And this is the same kind of judgment that I faced coming out of OnlyFans, right? And now, do I think what the girl is doing in the gym is wrong? Like, yeah, okay, just cover up, right? It's a put a t-shirt on. I just started wearing my husband's t-shirts, and it covers everything because he's so large, and so easy fix. But my thing is that I really hate seeing how people judge right off the bat in a TikTok video. Like, you would rather get stupid people's opinions online rather than pray for the person. And so, I mean, prayer is the most powerful tool at your disposal, but we go to the lowest tool in our disposal by posting a video about it and thinking that that's going to change everything, right? In fact, you're just going to go embarrass her, you know, because this woman really genuinely seemed like she was really trying to get close to God. And like all her videos were about Jesus and stuff. And I was like really proud to see that. Like, that's great. Is it showing the right message? Absolutely not. Could she be making people stumble? Absolutely. So there's two sides of the coin here that are kind of dangerous, where we have the social media influencers wanting to blast people all over the internet versus the person who might be trying to actually get close to God. But what I see your content doing is genuinely just calling out fake people, like these Trojan horses. And it's pretty funny, actually. I laugh a lot. I think my favorite line that you say is, "That's tough." I love when you say that at the end of your video.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
kills
People
me.
like that. Yeah.
It absolutely kills me.
But no, I agree with you wholeheartedly. And I've definitely been guilty of what you're saying, though. You know, I have to take accountability. But I'm not taking those videos down because I don't want to hide from what I was. I want to show people, look, there's a lot of people in this space, social media in general, but especially conservative media, that are fake. And they're doing what they're doing because someone's paying them to do it. And I'm not going to name names, but a lot of them are fake. And if you're listening to this, you know I'm speaking about you. But I'm just some guy. Like, when I decided dating was terrible, I got out of a relationship at 22. And for 4 years, dating was just so bad that I'm a really private person. And for someone like me to take a phone out and to start putting my opinion out online, I felt like I was suffocating and I was breathing through a straw underwater. And the only way I can get a grasp of air or get a gasp of air is to like get it off my chest. And people could say, well, you should have gone to therapy. Well, I did. I had different therapists too. And it was just so bad. And I'm like, I can't be the only one. And a lot of guys were relating, to what I was saying. Yeah. So
Well, that's definitely what I want to talk about. I have seen so many videos of conservative men or just biblical Christian men begging women on the internet to put some clothes on, begging them, like even showing them examples of things to wear, men. And so like, that's a massive problem. And I don't understand why women totally ignore it and think, oh, it doesn't apply to me. I am different. My body's just curvy. You wouldn't believe the amount of women I have spoken to who are just like, oh, I just have curves. I'm like, do big t-shirts not exist in your world? Does Big and Tall not make big t-shirts or big sweatpants? Like, what's the problem?
Right. And
But
if you
it's
look
really
at
sad.
like some Olympic sports or just sports in general, because a lot of the excuse for why we're dressing basically as legally naked as possible is because we have more range of motion. And as an athlete, whatever excuse they want to use, I have to wear basically just 2 pieces of strings because then I have no range. I would be limiting my range of motion. Well, then when you look at the same sport, but the male athletes, they're wearing clothes and they're performing at the same or mostly at a higher level.
Higher.
And it's like,
It's higher.
well, but so is their range of motion restricted? Did they need to go out in a Speedo and nothing else? Like,
I
do you
actually
need
just heard
basketball
someone
players?
say that excuse to me. Someone just said that to me like 2 days ago, where they were like, oh, I just have more range of motion. I'm like, actually, it's kind of up your crotch. So how is that comfortable when it's giving you a wedgie? Tell me, I would hate that. Like, I've been there before. I've made the gym mistakes. But then I just realized, dude, all you got to ask yourself is, what am I doing this for? If you are a married woman, why are you dressing like that? Your only purpose is to look good for your husband and keep your body holy, right? It's the temple of the Lord. By all means, work out. Working out is great. Like, eating healthy, good. You should be doing it. But at the end of the day, and I from what I've seen from gyms, especially in my area, they're like 90% men. There's like hardly any women there, except for some of the trainers. And so I'm looking around and I'm like, dude, if this is 90% men, yeah, I need to cover up. So why do I yearn for this 1 hour a day where I can just show my cheeks, in the gym? Why am I yearning to have another man stare at me? And then guess what? My husband's always with me. So then he has to watch another man stare at my ass. Like, it's just so disrespectful. And that's something that's something that convicted me. I was like, oh man, throw these away, dude. I can't wear these. Like, absolutely not. It's embarrassing to my husband. And it's embarrassing for me to do that right in front of him.
I want
So,
to also extend some grace too, because a lot of my videos and just me in general have been really harsh. And it's not like my heart's necessarily in the wrong place, but
mm,
the pathway to hell is paved with good intentions. And I think that I had good intentions, but to be honest, and hearing what you're saying, and to give grace, a lot of these girls genuinely, a lot of these women, to be clear, I'm saying girls and people might misconstrue it, but a lot of these women genuinely have been so uh, influenced to think that dressing like that at a gym is
mm,
liberating. And they're not even
right,
thinking, maybe it should try to give them the benefit of the doubt. They might not even be thinking, well, I'm looking for sexual attention, but you're giving it. Like
right,
you're getting it and you're giving
right.
it. Even if you don't think that's what it is, I know that all the marketing on social media and all the movies and the music really pushes this idea that it's okay to dress half naked. Like
Mm,
that's okay. So
right.
to extend grace, which I should do more and I'm going to continue to do more, I'm choosing to believe that the best, giving her the benefit of the doubt, she may genuinely just be influenced. Like you said, you felt convicted, but before that, you didn't. You
Hmm.
didn't see that there was necessarily something wrong because you look around you at the grocery store, at a mall, at the gym,
And
in
it's
public.
normal.
It's normal. It's normal. And I understand, but I here's where it becomes a problem, though, especially when you feel convicted and you know it's wrong and you continue to try and justify it.
Mm,
That's where it's like, all right, now we really have a problem, and then the husband's
right.
justifying it too and stuff.
Hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think a lot of women think it's a bad thing or are told by their girlfriends it's a bad thing that your husband tells you what to wear or not what not to wear, right? But I think it's absolutely the husband's right to be like, listen, this is a little too immodest, right? It's making me uncomfortable. And you should absolutely be so sensitive to that because you're also protecting his heart and his mind. And we're not here to make our partners jealous. That's the wrong road to drive down. It just really is. And I've had to have those difficult conversations with my husband. Now, our situation is pretty extraordinary because I came out of doing porn and had lived in that mindset of sexual behavior, sexual mindset, dressing provocatively for like even before I was on OnlyFans. And so, again, that's a little bit of a different situation. And I had to be extremely intentional with my actions and what I was wearing, and the fact that I'm a public figure. So that was pretty intense for me to have to go through this extreme refining process in such a short period of time. And so there is just grace, like you were saying earlier. There's just a lot of grace. And I'd say if your girlfriends are dressing the same way and acting the same way and wanting to go out on the weekends and wanting to be that kind of whole lifestyle, let them live that. But you got to find a group of women who are just so pro the Lord and pro biblical values and pro husband, pro family. Because I guarantee you, they're not dressing like that. If a woman truly is like that, she's not going to be dressing like that. She's going to encourage you to do the right thing. And it's just good company, too. I've met some really incredible people just over this last year of women who are wives and so biblical based. And dude, they never dress like that. In fact, their style is so unique and beautiful by covering up. It's so gorgeous, and it's such a challenge sometimes, I think, in this society to think, oh, I'm ugly if I don't show skin. And that's such a lie. It's such a lie from the enemy. But you're right. We've been so brainwashed from videos online. Like a lot of what I saw is just workout videos online of girls trying to show you how to grow your bum and grow your arms and grow your back. But of course, I have to have my whole back open to show you that I'm working my back muscles or my ass hanging out because you got to see that I'm working my butt, right? No, it's just such a lie, like such a lie. But I really enjoy your points of view on this. So, one more quick question. Why do you think divorce rates are so high?
Because a lot of people that aren't Christian are getting married. I believe marriage is something that is sacred.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a study out there. Some people refute it, but irrespective of that, people can look into it themselves and arrive at their own conclusion. There's a study out there that shows Christian couples that get married that pray on a day-to-day basis. have a like 1 in 6,000 chance of being divorced. Like it's like 1 in 600 or 1 in 6,000. It's like a really low number, you know? So,
Yes.
honestly, I don't understand, if you're not a Christian person, if you're not a religious person, why are you getting married? Is it only
I
for the
was going to
legal
ask you
benefit?
that.
Yeah.
I was
Because
going to
then you're
ask you that. Like,
just,
what's the purpose?
what is the purpose, honestly? I
What
mean,
is a covenant? Covenant
right.
for who?
And
Covenant
why are you going to
under
be in this
who?
forever with this person? In 10 years, I get sick of people all the time. I mean, friends are easier to keep because I'm not having to live with them 24/7, right?
Right.
But
Right.
this is a lifelong commitment that you're saying till death do us part. And how many people break that vow? So
Oof.
if you don't have some higher authority that you're submitting to, and that you're looking for God's blessing on your relationship, if you're just two people of the world, honestly, why get married? I don't understand
Right.
that. I guess the only
Well,
argument is for legal benefits, but the other side of that are all of the drawbacks that you're going to get against the law, especially as a man, if you get divorced.
it's
So
true.
it's like, dude, if
It's
you're not a
true.
Christian man, I really don't understand why you would even consider getting married.
Right. Well, even in this Christian society, there's so many people I've come across who are boyfriend and girlfriend and live together, but proclaim Christ. And I'm really confused by that. I'm genuinely confused. I even saw this girl saying in a video, God told us to move in together. And I'm like, well, that's definitely not God. You are not listening to God's voice, because that's directly against biblical principle and the laws. But I'm really confused by that, but I do agree with you on the fact that unbelievers, there's really no point for you to get married. There's really none, other than the fact that you can file taxes together. It's like, okay, like that's cool, but
And
just
to
be
add on
roommates
to that,
then.
though, a lot of these couples, some of them, many of them Christian, they're basically married. They're having sex. They're living together. They're living a married life. And
Hmm.
I was debating this the other day with Parker Get a Job. He's like a big liberal streamer on TikTok, and he's
Okay.
friends with Dean. And anyway, I was debating
Mm.
him, and I said to him, you know, because he brought up the fact that he had a girlfriend, and that they basically are like a married couple. I'm like, so why don't you marry her? Oh, he's like, she checks off all my boxes. She's perfect. I'm like, so why don't you marry her then? What's stopping you from marrying her? Here's what I think. For a Christian man, the call to action is, don't date the girl for years. I've made that mistake. I
Mm.
think that's a very cultural thing, and to
Yes, it
date
is.
for years. Yeah, I think that obviously date or court her long enough to get to know her family. That's really important. Get to know her
Hmm.
friends. That's really important. And then get to see if you actually enjoy being with her without sex.
Right.
Because if sex is the glue, I've asked so many of my followers that are in a relationship, and I said, if sex was off the table for the next 6 months, would you? No, but I'm breaking up with her. I'm like, wait a second. So if sex is the reason you're together and sex is off the table, is this someone that you really love? Is this someone that you're going to commit the rest of your life to? It seems like you're with her because she's kind of like a human sex toy to you. Honestly, like, I know it sounds
Literally.
bad, but it's
It
like,
doesn't.
if
It's because it's the truth. It's the truth. There's no point. I mean, you should just be watching porn then in that case. Like, there's absolutely no point other than using a woman. It's just not. I see so many Christians doing this, though, where they're dating for like 6 years. And I'm like, you're just inviting temptation into your entire relationship, because you're going to tell me for 6 years you didn't think once about having sex?
yeah,
Like,
men need to
you know what I'm
step up,
saying?
propose, get married, and then instead of having all these arguments as though you're a married couple, you need to do it in the
Mm.
marriage. You're not getting God's blessing unless you're married. That's something I guess a lot of Christian couples omit. You are not going to receive the covenant blessing from God. No matter how much you surrender this relationship to God, that if you're not
Hmm.
married, if you have not made that commitment as a man, don't expect to receive God's blessing on your relationship.
That's a word. I like that a lot. And I didn't even think about that. But Jordan and I, we dated for like 3 months and then got married immediately. We just knew. I was like, wow, this man literally brought me to the Lord. And I knew his eyes were set on him. And I was like, wow, this is it. And it happened so fast. And then we just decided to get really good people around us. And we've been through some counseling, because obviously our story is extremely unique and there's got to be some healing and counseling in there. But it's been so beautiful to grow with somebody. Like, it's genuinely like the most exciting part of every day for me, even if it is a bad day, because again, your partner is pretty much just there to mirror you. And so that means you have to keep getting better day to day for your partner, for Christ, for others. And it just flows out of you. When you have a good, rock solid marriage in Christ, doesn't mean it's perfect, but it's healthy. And that will just flow out onto others, and it blesses them too. And so, yeah, I am so pro marriage. I absolutely am. I think Christian men do need to step up. I think Christian women need to step up and be wife material. And it's okay that, like, when I got married, I had no idea how to be a wife. I was like, well, I think that I have to cook. I think that I need to keep a good house. I think I need to take care of you. But you grow into that. I think there's a level of fear that's really standing in the way for people. And no matter what that excuse might be, whether you think the grass is greener somewhere else, or you're going to meet somebody else along the way of dating them, or where you don't think you're ready for marriage, nobody is ready for marriage. It's just like nobody's ready to have a kid. You have no idea what it's like, other than what you see around you. But it's beautiful. It's so beautiful. And I'm so grateful for my husband. And it's the best thing, truly, other than like getting saved in my life, is just being married and serving and honoring my husband in everything that I do. And there's so much blessing from that. You know, God blesses me because I am a responsible, submitting wife. I feel so blessed. So, but I think that's all the time that we have for today. I so appreciate you, RC, and just your honesty, and your questions were so, so good. And where can people find you to subscribe or follow you at?
Sure. The Right Corner on Instagram, the Right Corner IG. But if you just put in the Right Corner, it'll come up.
Okay.
But I really appreciate the invite and getting to know you a little more.
Me
so
too.
yeah, you know, most people that see me are seeing a 30-second, 45-second, 1-minute clip, and they think I'm a psychopath. Mm-hmm. So I appreciate that.
I did it first.
Yeah. Because I mean, you know, people have a very short attention span, so you need to grab their attention on short form content. But I really appreciate the invite, because it gives me a chance to elaborate more on my views, where I'm not looking for a 45-second sound clip that people can, you know, it can go viral. And I'm really trying to send a message. That's the point.
Right.
You know, but in order to send a message on short form content, especially in this space, it's not that I'm lying. I believe what I'm saying, but I'm cutting around all the fat, all the nuance, and I'm just going straight to the point. And people think, man, this guy's like a psycho. And a lot of women will watch it like, I would never date this guy. And it's like, first of all, I'm speaking to young men, right? Like, I'm trying to change their mind, right? I will never speak to my wife that way. My tone is going to be 180 degrees different with my woman.
Right.
It's not necessarily what you say, but how you say it. So yeah, I very much appreciate the invite, and I love the conversation.
Yeah, me too. I think these conversations need to continue happening. Just like Charlie Kirk said, he gives people a mic to speak, and then we just have an honest conversation after that, right? There's no need to get angry or offended, because again, our hearts can lead us astray. So thank you so much, RC. I will put your links down in the description. I appreciate your time and honesty, and honestly, just being a good Christ follower. It's pretty rare these days to find someone who has such strong, truthful opinions about our society. And I'm just really proud of what you're doing on the internet. So keep going. Yeah. All right, guys, make sure you subscribe to the Nala Ray Show, and make sure you go follow RC on his Instagram and other socials. Thank you so much for joining us today. Have a great day.